Well, guys, I am ready to go for spring planting right now. Now, this is early spring, we're in April, and I thought, let's have a day where we all, you and me, go around and plant some planters because you know what? They have been sitting here empty for quite a while. So I have various planters around that in, mid-May when we're getting into our warm season, when we're past the threat of frost, I will plant with all my agave and all my annuals that do really well in warm season. But here in April, we have to pick things that can take the cold a little bit more. So I filled up the gator here with some cold or cool loving plants, which is violas and pansies and hellebores or Lenten roses. Look how pretty they are. And I thought, what I like to do is try to pick some things that I want to put in the ground as perennials later on, like these hellebores. So I plant them now in a container, and then later on, I'm just going to move them into the ground so I can keep them for year to year. Same with some different grasses that just add good texture right now, but then I can use them for perennial use later on. I just love that. And then we'll mix in some violas, we'll mix in some pansies. That's the fun part. So my containers are here. These are some big cast iron urns. This is my first year planting these two actually, so I'm pretty excited, flanking my driveway. So what I like to do is I have my good soil in there, and I just use, a good organic potting mix, all purpose. It's always gonna be the Espoma all-purpose, and I have it already in here because it has a great texture too. It's just the all-purpose potting soil. So it drains well, it retains some moisture, but also allows the plants to grow well. So I have that in there, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start planting. That's the fun part. This is Molly's white Lenten rose, and I think it's a really pretty one because look at that color. You get that really fun pop of color. I think the thing with these urns, it's easy to want to overfill them, but you can't quite. So I am gonna rough up the roots just like I would if I was planting it in the ground. When you rough up these roots, what it does is it stimulates more root growth. It helps them say, hey, I want to branch out and get some more growth going. So you just want to rough them up slightly. Now, I also like to plant them slightly high because I'll put soil then around them. In the spring here, we overplant because these are only going to last about a month before I transplant them into the ground. So I want to make sure that they are seen and are a little bit higher. So I make sure that I have room that then I can put all the other annuals kind of around them and maybe some grasses. That's really pretty though. I'm really excited for this color. I want to mix in some of this Evergold Japanese grass. I love the color again. See how the play on texture and color? And the thing is, you can start interspersing this and look at that play. I am someone that will always go for texture over bright in your face colors because I think there is something really special about it. And I think with my farmhouse and it being white, I like to play off kind of those tones and then add in little pops with the pansies. So I'm gonna put in a couple more of these grasses to really get, I'm kind of excited about this mix. So I'm gonna do 3 of these grasses in each. Here's the thing. I think we need to start thinking outside the box when it comes to planting a container. You don't have to stick to just the normal annuals you think of. I love to do this. For one, it makes really unique containers, but then you have something you can plant. So in a month, I'm gonna move all these things to the ground, and you can see right now, I'm making them a little bit higher because I want them to have that definition. And in the summer, then you will see an agave in this thing. It will be beautiful. But until then, let's put a few pansies so we get some color. I think we need a few. And actually, I think I'm gonna do violas because they're beautiful. Look how big they are. And they have that quality that more will help them kind of drape out, which is what I want. Now, anytime it's overgrown, you see all those roots, it's a healthy plant. That's the best part, but break it up. Break it up so it is stimulated for more growth. We always have this fear, I think, that we're gonna kill a plant. They like to have that stimulation. And now look how beautiful that is. This is good. I'm gonna put in 2 more of them, put a little bit of soil in them. Right back there. Oh, that's perfect. Just look at that. I'm gonna break out the big guns here. I'm gonna bring out my big bag, and I'm just sometimes will take a small pot. This is how when you don't have a scoop, you use a pot. And then I'll just go in and put the soil in around these plants like I need to. This is what's gonna, I used to never plant early flowering things like this. I would wait until May, which there is nothing wrong with doing. But you know what I find? I live in a cold climate. I'm in Iowa, southeast Iowa, zone 5. And sometimes waiting till May after a long winter, it can feel really deafening and you need some life. This instantly at the front of my drive, I can see these when I work in the yard. I can see these from my certain windows in my house, and they just bring me joy. I find that's what gardening is a lot of times. it just brings you joy, and you have to plant things for that joy. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm gonna put the soil all around these. Make sure I cover up those roots. That's the important thing, because if you don't, that air could dry them out too quickly. But look how fun these look. They're kind of fun. I found these urns last year at a antique show, and I was pretty excited because cast iron urns can be hard to find. They just fit here perfectly on these plinths. That, by the way, I found on Facebook Marketplace. Who would have thought, but I did, and they were really reasonable. What I love about planting things early on, they never need as much water because we don't have the heat of summer yet that's really drying them out. So obviously you need to water them well and watch the watering, don't let them dry out too much, but it's never as strenuous as in the middle of summer. Because you know who the watering is? This guy. I go around with my buckets and my watering cans, but it works. I'm pretty excited about this one. I like it. Okay, we have a lot more to plant. Let's keep going. So I'm coming up to the small pots by my door. This is kind of the door that everyone goes through at the moment. And I just have 2 small cast iron pots. And honestly, these will probably change here as I get actual summer stuff out. But this time of year, I think it's nice to just add some instant color. Again, it has been a long winter. This is the first time now that we're finally looking like temperatures may not dip too much below 32 in the next extended forecast, which is a big deal after you've had a long winter. So I just really want to enjoy it. So I'm adding pine soil to these. Now, I'm someone that collects, as you see, antique urns. It's what I love to do. So I love to mismatch, just, mix them all up. They don't match necessarily, but they're different heights, and so they're just kind of fun to use in different ways. So I don't overfill them with pine soil right away, as you can see, because if you fill them all the way to the brim, it's really hard to put in the plants. So I like to instead underfill them slightly, set the plants in, then fill the soil in around them. So with these, I just got those little potted tulips, which you could do your own pots. Some years I do, honestly, last fall, I just did not have the time to get these ready on my own. You've seen the people that do the beautiful ones, and I've done it certain years where you can pot them up on your own in the fall, and then in the spring have all these wonderful tulips to set around. So this year I got the ones that were pre-done in instant color. They look great, but they're gonna be pretty much my focal center point piece, because look at them. And now I'll just put some pansies around them. I chose this gorgeous, it's called Frizzle Sizzle Lemonberry. If that doesn't scream spring, I really don't know what does. So these are in 4-packs, which are really nice because it means they have a lot of growth to happen, which will happen in the next few months. But just like anything else, I make sure just to break up that little root ball, and we're gonna set these in around. We can fit quite a few, but look at that play on color. You get the yellow with the purple. It just plays really well. So I'm gonna keep adding these in, and then we'll do the small pot. It's just a great way to add a little bit of excitement by the door. Now, if you're worried about freezing temperatures, these are beside a really protected area. They're on a southeast corner of the house, which means they don't get any of those really cold winds. So even if it does dip down and get kind of cold, this will probably still be protected up close to the house. So that's one way you can extend the season, is put pots like this close to your door, so then they're not way out in the open. It's just a way if you want to make sure you can plant things and not worry about it, which is what I love to do. So once I have all the plants kind of placed in where I want them, then I go in with this potting soil. Again, same all-purpose potting soil, and I just start putting it around the little plants. And that way you don't have way too much soil and have to fight it. So it's just a good way to do it. And now what's great is as the tulips fade, because they will, they don't last forever, these pansies will really start growing in, and they'll take place eventually of the tulips. And then by the time those are done too, we'll be replacing all this with our summer warm loving plants, which will come before you know it. So to finish these off, I just need to water them. I did the small pot pretty much the same. Got tulips, got pansies. The thing is, when it comes to these early blooming ones, it's simple. All you need is the things that look really pretty right now. You kind of overfill the pots, because in my zone, once summer comes, these pansies, they don't take the heat well. So I can only keep these, for a time while it's cool. Now, sometimes they go well into July and still look good. Sometimes they don't, just depends. But way before then, I'll be planting my summer pots. So these are just a great way to enjoy some color enjoy some seasonal feelings, which is what we want. So I have one more pot here I want to plant today, but doesn't it just look more welcoming instantly? I think it does, and I love that. Now I'm at one of my largest urns, which is underneath the kitchen window. So I see it from the kitchen window, you see it as you walk up to my front door, and I like to have an impact. So in the summer, I put my largest agave here, which is probably over about 5 feet wingspan on the thing. And it looks gorgeous and it's really statement, but I still want something that has a lot of color, and it's a big pot, so sometimes it can be hard. So I'm opting for a shrub that I can then plant in the ground. So it's a Ramapo rhododendron. Why I like it is because, do you see the color? It's beautiful. So I think it's great to use these types of things in pots this time of year because they add just so much interest and they add an impact that you just couldn't get otherwise. So I already took a hole and made it and put it in the pot this was in. So I can just set this right in there, which look at that. Now, like I said, you could in certain areas keep this in a container year round, but once it blooms, it's more just a green plant. So instead, once the blooming time is over, I'm going to stick this right down and plant it in the ground so I can keep it year to year. But I am gonna go get we need some color and some more perennials or pansies around it so we can just kind of make it set off. But you can see now instantly, it's just like this showpiece on its own. So now we just need to embellish it. So around this, I'm also gonna put some of that Japanese sedge because I just love the texture and it fills in really well. And again, so far, all this container has is perennials or the shrubs. So we're gonna plant this in the ground later on. I love when you can, have multiple uses for something. So for some pops of color, we're gonna do, of course, some pansies because you cannot, they're just a happy face. They literally look like a happy face. Now, as always, you, I'm sure, know with pansies, but just remember, when the blooms look spent, if you want to encourage more blooming, just deadhead, just take off those blooms because that is going to encourage the plant to stop putting energy into the dead flower because it takes energy to keep on the plant. And as it goes away, it will put its energy into a new flower, which is exactly what you want. So I'm going to start planting some of these in here and I want to make it full because like I said, this is a short-lived one. Now interspersed with those, I'm going to add some fun texture with some red Russian kale. So you can buy red Russian kale in little 4-packs like this. It's really inexpensive, but as it grows and fills in, the foliage is so fun to have. And it has this great, you can see already some of the red stems it's getting, kind of purpley red. And I just think it's really fun to use. I think you have to think of outside the box. And what's great about something like this is it's super economical. So usually a pack like this is maybe $2.49. And guess what then? You have something edible in your garden too. So we're gonna have this edible kale growing that, yes, everyone should love kale. You just don't cook it the right way or use it the right way in a salad if you don't like it. Believe me, you need to like it. So I'm gonna keep planting these around and fill up the container. That's the fun part. So now I'm just watering everything in, obviously to get out any of the air bubbles that's in it. We planted quite a bit today, honestly, in a short time. So we did the 2 urns by the front driveway. They have the Lenten rose, they have some of this Japanese sedge, and they have some violas. We did the pots just by my front door, which have just quick blooming tulips and then some pansies. And then we have this one with the rhododendron, a compact variety that I'm gonna plant in the ground later, some more Japanese sedge for texture, and then these plants that will fill in, some red Russian kale, which you can eat, which is fun, it's an edible, and then the pansies beside it. So this is all gonna fill in the next, weeks. It will start bumping, it will start growing, which I'll share about in stories, I always do. And it will really start looking good and exciting for spring with all the fun blooms. So thank you for watching. You know what? I always have so much going on in my yard that I always have fun times to show you, and that's what I love about this. So share it around so other people can get inspired and excited to do things outdoors too, because it's getting that time of year. Now, I have garden to go plant, so that's what I'm gonna do next, vegetables.